Hi there, this is Lila Riley. I'm a staff attorney with the Office of the State Engineer, Litigation and Adjudication Program, Pecos River Bureau. And I'm going to provide a brief presentation about the Cow Creek Adjudication. You can break up the Pecos Bureau team into 3 different areas. We have an administrative support staff, hydrographic survey team, and legal staff. And I'm part of the legal staff, so I'm going to provide a disclaimer in that I'm an attorney for the state of New Mexico. I represent the state of New Mexico in this adjudication, so I cannot provide legal advice to individuals. However, I can answer basic questions and provide facts and provide the information that we have available. Getting right to it, what is a water right? What are we looking for? Well, we're on Cow Creek. We're primarily looking at pre-1907 water rights. And the significance of the 1907 date is that in 1907 the Water Code was enacted, and that required an application to the territorial, at the time, state engineer, and an approval providing some documentation, permit or license for a water right. Now, prior to 1907, that didn't exist. Those individuals don't have any paper documentation of a water right. What they were doing to obtain a water right was digging a ditch or an acequia from Cow Creek, making that diversion and putting that water to beneficial use. At that time, the water was put to beneficial use became the priority date of the water right. So priority date is one of the elements of the water right. There are several elements that make up a water right, including the point of diversion, maybe the acequia, including purpose of use. On Cow Creek, primary purpose of use we're seeing are irrigation, is for irrigation. Location of the water right is another element of the water right. But basically, those are the types of water rights we're looking at: historical, surface water rights from Cow Creek. But we are also looking at impoundments or ponds, and most of those will have post-1907 dates. Another important term that you'll want to know about is adjudication. And simply put, an adjudication is a legal proceeding to determine or inventory water rights. On the screen is the Cow Creek Watershed. And if I zoom in, you'll be able to find areas that you'll be familiar with on the Cow Creek Watershed. In the middle of the Cow Creek Watershed approximately is Upper Colonias, and just south of that, Lower Colonias. And then much further south, we have North San Ysidro. Not shown, but you'll be familiar with, but not located in the Cow Creek Watershed, is the village of Pecos, and that will be west of the Cow Creek Watershed. So how do we do this? How do we start the Cow Creek adjudication? Well, that's where our hydrographic survey team comes into play, and the first thing that they do is a hydrographic survey, and they do that with extensive research. They look at historical documents, they put boots on the ground in the Cow Creek Watershed and walk the ditches for the past 5 years at least. They've been working on that and walking the ditches in the Cow Creek area, talking with people, interviewing individuals, getting all the information that can be made available to them, and that is used to create the hydrographic survey. Now, the hydrographic survey, when completed, will consist of several map sheets of this Cow Creek Watershed map that you see on the screen. It'll be split up into various areas which will become individual map sheets, and on those map sheets individual properties, we call them subfiles, subfile properties, will be depicted as having a water right or not having a water right. So when the hydrographic survey team creates their hydrographic survey, and at that point the legal team is able to make a recommendation to the court as to whether a subfile property has a water right. That recommendation is contained within your adjudication packet. So the adjudication packet contains many materials, one of which is a proposed consent order. Now, before I go on, the materials will be approved by the court in advance of sending them out, and we have that part of the process has not yet occurred, and so there may be slight changes in the way we've done things before, all of which we'll be sure to have the court's approval on those documents before they're sent out. So the proposed consent order I'll go into a little bit more thoroughly later, but that will contain the state's recommendation of what it believes to be your water right, if any. And that proposed consent order, if you agree with everything that's contained within that proposed consent order, you can sign it, send it back to us, we'll sign it, send it off to the court for the court's review and signature. However, importantly, if you don't agree with any, even if it's just one element you don't agree with, then what you do is you prepare an answer. And there will be an answer form provided in your adjudication packet, so it won't be something that you just have to come up with off the top of your head, but there will be an answer form. In addition to that answer form, we're going to ask that you come and speak with us about your concerns about the proposed consent order. We're interested if you have any information that tells us that our recommendation may be inaccurate. We want to work with you, and we'd rather resolve this problem rather than taking it through litigation. So if there's any information or materials that you have to show us that will help us change our mind in making a recommendation to the court, we'd like to see it. It's important to all of us on the Pecos River Bureau team to get this adjudication right and to do it well, and to have all the information made available to us that's out there. So the flow chart continues on. Of course, it says call the Office of the State Engineer anytime to discuss your concerns or questions, but on page 2 of the adjudication flowchart, I have listed other individuals who have a long history with adjudications, who are extremely knowledgeable about the adjudication process and are happy to help you, and have agreed to provide their information so you can get in touch with them. So Darcy Bushnell of the Still Water Ombudsman Program, she's at the Utton Center. Her email and phone are provided. She provides free help to individuals who need it. Again, she can't provide legal advice to you, but is happy to help you in any other way that she can. Janice Varela is with the New Mexico Acequia Association, and I know that she's discussed having maybe some type of presentation or class available to individuals involved in the Cow Creek Adjudication. Richard Trujillo, he is with the State Engineer's Office, but very knowledgeable. He lives near the community, and if he is unable to help you, he will surely put you in touch with the right person who can. Ralph Vigil is the chair of the New Mexico Acequia Association, or Commission, pardon me, and has indicated that he is interested in helping individuals who have questions on the Cow Creek Adjudication. And then, of course, I've provided the Pecos Bureau team contact information. So next on the screen, I've put our sample consent order. And this is Jane Doe's consent order. At the top of the consent order, we have what we refer to as the caption. The caption provides the name of the plaintiffs, defendants, who the presiding judge is, and then details of the subfile claimants, court information or case information. I'm going to scroll down to what I'll refer to as header A. And header A is header A, B, and C on Jane Doe's proposed consent order. There could be one header and there could be 10 headers or more. So the number of headers depends upon the water uses on your property. But in this case, Jane Doe has 2.12 acres of irrigated lands under unnamed ditch, that's the point of diversion, unnamed ditch. She has a priority date of 1889, and the amount of water she has is 2 acre-feet per acre per annum. And you'll see under, I should point out first that the bold words under header A, those are categories of the elements of the water right, and then past those are the actual elements of this particular water right under header A. So note now, and I'll go to it in a little bit, but it says, as shown on the attached hydrographic survey map for subfile 0.0, and that's Jane Doe's subfile number. But I want to go to that subfile in a minute because these headers actually correspond to the subfile map. Header B is a storage impoundment or a pond and has a priority date of 1960, which means that's when the pond or impoundment was constructed. It's for livestock watering, and then the amount of water is indicated below. And then under header C, we have a no right, and the no right is for 0.58 acres and has details of the no right. And that no right could be for various reasons, but one of the reasons may be that Jane Doe didn't continuously put to beneficial use that 0.5 acres of water right. So we'll scroll down through the signature page, and then I'm going to pull up the subfile map. Okay, this is the subfile map that corresponds with the sample proposed consent order. And I forgot to mention, the reason it's called proposed consent order is because it's only proposed until it's signed by the parties and the court. And it's a consent order because for it to be entered as an order by the court, there must be consent or agreement among the parties for all of the contents of the consent order. It's very important that before that consent order is signed, the parties agree to everything within the consent order. And then the court will review it and sign it, and at that point in time it becomes a consent order. Okay, so the subfile map, this is Jane Doe's proposed consent order subfile map. It shows at the top there, or north end of the property, a pond with the amounts that were indicated on the proposed subfile or proposed consent order. It also depicts the 0.58 acres of no right, and that's depicted in yellow. It depicts the irrigated acreage or acreage with a water right of 2.12 acres, and that's depicted in or outlined in green. And then it also shows on the subfile map the ditch, the point of diversion, which in this case is unnamed ditch. So that concludes my presentation, and I can't emphasize enough how important it is for you to come forward with any information you have for us to adjudicate on the Cow Creek as best as we can on the Cow Creek Watershed. We want to get the job done, but we want to do it in the best way that we can with the most accurate information. And to do that, we'd like to hear from you. And if you don't feel comfortable contacting the state engineer's office, you can get in touch with any of the individuals that I have listed on the adjudication flow chart, and that's up on your screen currently. And if you can provide information to them, they can provide that information to us or coordinate with us. And I appreciate you listening and being interested in the Cow Creek adjudication.